Hey, living environment nuts and crazies and fans and fanatics. That's right, we made it to June, which means in just a short period of time, the Regents is here and the school year is over and my career is done. Yes. Anyway, we're gonna spend the next couple of weeks, the next class, I think we only have 8 classes till the Regents, including today. I'm gonna spend those classes doing some review. So we're gonna look back at some old favorites from beginning of the year and beyond, and hopefully get that back into our brain so that when we sit down for the Regents exam on Friday, June the 14th at high noon, we will be able to maximize our chance at success, which is really what we're here to do. So, today let's go back to the very beginning, talk about what it means to be alive and all the characteristics of life. Da 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 do 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 da 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 do do. All right. Da 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 do do do. Hey now. Da 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 do do. Mr. Kovacs class. It's really fun. It's Mr. Kovacs class. You might learn a ton. It's Mr. Kovacs class. It's interesting too. It's Mr. Kovacs class. And he's super cool. It's Mr. Kovacs class. Here in Living Environment, we study biology, life, what it means to be alive, the mechanisms of life, the different ways to be alive, different strategies that life has to stay alive, and even some things that can end lives we studied. If you think about it, we studied a lot of stuff about life, but it was the key theme was that everything we studied this year was about some facet of life on Earth. And it's a fascinating topic, and to be honest, we just kind of scratched the surface. You could do a deep dive into any one of the topics that we covered, but we kind of scratched the surface on all the main topics, right? We talked about cells, we talked about bacteria, evolution, ecology, genetics, chemistry, a little bit of life chemistry. We talked a lot about different body systems. We talked a lot about enzymes and those kinds of things. So, we covered a lot this year, all right? As we studied life. Let's see what I think I mentioned like who does biology. Basically, biology is done by people, right? Maybe some of you will grow up to become some kind of biologist or involved in life sciences after you graduate high school and go on to further education. Maybe. But what does it mean to be alive? That's what I wanted to talk about today, right? Alive. Alive? Alive? Alive. What does it mean to be alive? Well, there's a whole bunch of characteristics, and we talked about this before. You have to have growth and development. That's one of the characteristics, right? You're made up of cells that grow and develop over time. You have to have a metabolism. You have to be able to use energy. We talked about obtaining energy in lots of different ways of going around and collecting energy, and then how do you actually get energy out of the food that you eat? That's called metabolism, and we learned about that when we learned about cellular respiration. Maintaining homeostasis, right? Keeping things constant inside of your body is a big part of, and we talked about different ways that you regulate your bodies for things like amount of oxygen, amount of nitric waste, the amount of temperature, those kinds of things, the amount of water, those kinds of things are regulated by organ systems. Cells is a big one. We spent a lot of time with cells, and the basic unit of life, if you remember the cell theory, is the cell, right? The cell was discovered by a guy, we can call him Robert Hooke, or give him credit for that. And another guy named Anton van Leeuwenhoek was the first person to see living cells living their lives. It corresponded with the invention and betterment of microscopes. All organisms reproduce, so they, or at least have the ability to reproduce, right? To copy themselves or part of themselves. We spend a lot of time with our species, and we know that when it's time to reproduce, make new members of our species, we reproduce half of ourselves, right? And then we try to put two halves together to make a brand new whole. And then probably the last thing is that all organisms adapt. That means their bodies are built to match the environment in which they live. And then as the environment changes, so do the adaptations, and that's called evolution, right? So these are the main topics that we studied, right? Growth, development, using and obtaining energy, regulating, maintaining homeostasis, how do cells work, how do you reproduce, how do you pass on information from one generation to the next, and how does that information affect populations over time? Yeah, that's basically in a nutshell what we studied. See a couple key words that you'll see definitely on the Regents: autotroph or autotrophic. That means you make your own, you do photosynthesis. Although there are some autotrophs that do chemosynthesis, on the Regents we'll primarily concentrate on the ones that use light energy to take carbon dioxide and water and turn them into glucose molecules, right? We call them autotrophs. We also call them producers, right? And some organisms don't make their own food. They have to consume food, eat and then digest it. We call those heterotrophs. Heterotrophs. In both cases, once the food is made, to get energy, you just have to break the bonds that were in the food, right? And you do that through doing cellular respiration, either anaerobic or aerobic. Another key word you'll see all over the Regents is the word homeostasis. In fact, whenever there's a written question on the Regents, if you work the word homeostasis, like write something, it does this to maintain homeostasis, that usually will be enough to buy you at least partial credit for a question, right? Because it's a theme that we've had throughout the course of the year, is that homeostasis, keeping things internally stable, right? That's the whole function of life, is to maintain homeostasis, right? And you should be able to give at least one example of the way your body maintains homeostasis, right? Especially when it comes to, like, body temperature is a great example. Here, go ahead and do that for me now. Good, right? So if you can't maintain homeostasis, well, you know what that means. Probably the same thing that happens if you don't pass the Regents. Right, a great Monday. We're going to have a great Monday today. You're going to do an old Edpuzzle video, and what I've done for the next 2 weeks is I'm not giving you, including this Bellringer, including the Bellringers, I'm only giving you one chance to take them because they're study tools, right? So at this time, you need to stop, pay attention to what you're watching, and try to answer as best you can as if you were taking a test. That's how we study for the test. And yes, the grade you get will count. So no more unlimited takes. We've got to get serious now. The Regents is coming up in just a few days, right? Something like 11 days. All right, good luck to you.